Okay, well here we're going to get started with our KWL creator. In our class we've talked about lots of different things around monuments and installations, and you guys have been looking at maps of downtown Zeeland and thinking about where would a good location for a monument or installation be. So we're going to take that knowledge that we've gained so far, and we're going to put this into a KWL creator so that we can be thinking about things that we've learned, what we still want to learn, and then eventually at the end of this course you will fill out the L section to talk about what we did learn all together. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to put your name in. I'm going to do Mr. Adams, and then our topic is our immortalizing leaders. All right, and then we're going to hit continue. So the first thing that I want you to look at is the things that we already know. So we've talked about our driving question in class. On the online course, you've read articles about statues and what they represent, and different articles about where statues might be torn down just because of the political environment or people's opinions of their historical representation. So we're going to take all that we have learned and all that background knowledge, everything you've gained so far, and put this in what we already know. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a heading. So I'm going to do statues because we have talked about statues in class. All right, so here I'm going to write all the things I know about statues. They represent something. So I'm going to add more. They are often of historical figures. They show us events from the past, can cause emotion in people. Right. Usually in the United States, statues have been used to represent accomplishments or things that have happened. So usually in the United States, statues represent past accomplishments. Right? So now I can think about other things that we've talked about. Like we've talked about Zeeland. So I'm going to add another heading. I'm going to do downtown Zeeland. And things we've talked about for downtown Zeeland is the idea of adding to the slogan, Feel the Zeal. So I'm going to put the slogan, Feel the Zeal. I'm going to add more. We've talked about locations, so like the gateways to Zeeland. Gateways to Zeeland. And we've talked about things that we want to add or that we want to represent. So we want to think about things for Zeeland such as like industry and agriculture, because those are the things that represent Zeeland. So let's say these are all the things that we know. We know things that represent statues, and we know things that represent downtown Zeeland. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to think about what we want to learn. So one things that we want to learn are what historical figures represent Zeeland. So let's do historical figures and what they represent. So that's our heading. And we know that we want our historical figures to represent zeal. So we might write what historical figures show zeal. We might want to learn, are there any historical figures from the Zeeland area? What historical figures are connected to industry and agriculture. So these are some things that we might want to focus on when it comes to historical figures and what they represent. Now I want to think about a different heading, and let's start thinking about installations in Zealand. So this is a different heading. So right now in Zealand, we don't really have a lot of statues. We have places for people to go. So we have the splash pad, which is like our water park. We have Captain Sunday, which is where people go to get ice cream and stuff like that. And we have, let's see, we have cemeteries. Okay. So to add to that, we might want to think about where are places that people go, or what are things that might fit into those areas that a lot of people go to. So we might want to add maybe what kind of building materials. So we might want to think about the building materials that get used in other things around Zealand, just to help them match and go along with the idea of Feel the Zeal. So that's what we're going to start getting into in this next lesson. We will eventually come back and fill in the L of what we learned throughout. And this will help us kind of synthesize all the different things that we learned, and then we'll put that information into our project proposal, which we'll eventually send off to the mayor and people in city council, so that they can see what we've been working on, and hopefully one of our installations will be built. So that is our KWL, and we will be using this to help us understand what we already know, what we want to learn, and then at the end, what we learned, and be able to explain how it all tied together. All right, guys?